What's going on, everyone? The Pizza Buffet is live here for Week 6 on Forward Progress, presented by FanDuel. I'm Rob Pizzola. I'm a pro bettor. I'm CEO here at The Hammer, and this is going to be the same show as always. I'll go rotation number order, top to bottom on the screen, give you my thoughts on every single game on the NFL card today. Good morning to everyone in the chat. I see Free 88, John, Carl, Brandon, a lot of familiar faces, even Mike Vivian. Good morning, Mr. Pizza. He says, Vivian, tough break with the Sooners yesterday. I'm surprised you're actually up at this point after that loss to Texas, but there's some football going on in the background here. Jets, Broncos. If Aaron Glenn can make it as a head coach in the NFL, you can make it doing anything in life. Just use that as inspiration, because I just watched the Jets run out the clock on themselves in the first half here, which you don't see too often nowadays, but it is what it is. I'll have that in the background as I go through the show today. As a reminder, it's been a pretty good season for the most part. That does not mean I'm suddenly like a sides and totals expert on Sunday mornings. I've been doing some version of this show for a very long time now, and I don't bet myself on Sunday mornings into these types of markets because limits are high and edges are pretty thin. So just know that as someone watching the show or listening to the show, it's tough out here. I will give out a bunch of props, though, over the course of the show. Those I feel much more confident in, have a track record of beating props on Sunday, so totally fine with that. You'll see a graphic with my numbers for every single matchup. I'll tell you what I like, what I don't. Always shop for the best number, but of course, check FanDuel as much as possible, our presenting sponsor. They often have a very strong price in these games, and this show is better with you in it. I don't know where I put my phone. I don't have my phone with me right now. If something breaks, just drop it in the chat. I'll work it in. Not too much injury news we're waiting on today. There's a few things, but if you do see something that hasn't been discussed yet on the show, drop it in the chat, and we'll go from there. If you can, quickly like that stream. Just take 2 seconds, smash that like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed here on Forward Progress. Share it out with a friend if you can. Thanks for being here for Week 6 in the NFL. Let's get into it, and we are going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off of a bye, hosting the Cleveland Browns. Taking a look at the market in this game, FanDuel has one of the only 5.5s left on the board at minus 120 here. The rest of the market has pretty much moved to 6, and this total's kind of hovered in the 38.5 range all week. Now, we saw some like early Cleveland money, then as the week got on, it's been all Pittsburgh money since then, kind of leveled off at 6. The scheduling spot is something that I've talked about this week. At this point, I do believe it's factored into the line. Cleveland in the situation where they're playing a third straight road game, just back from London, against Pittsburgh off a bye. This is the only time in NFL history that a team off an international trip has faced a rested opponent. That's something I think you can capitalize on early in the week. We talked about that on the Sunday reset last Sunday night in terms of the scheduling spot. But as the week goes on, it's just common knowledge and it gets factored into the price. So I wouldn't use that as something to handicap the game at this point, unless you feel that either the market overreacts to that scheduling spot or underreacts to it. But in my opinion, it's not only that, it's Pittsburgh getting healthier. They get Alex Highsmith back. They get Joey Porter back. Jalen Ramsey's going to be active. It's probably the healthiest the Steelers have been all season long. And this is kind of like a historically, I don't want to say a good spot for Tomlin. It's not necessarily the spot, but he's done a really good job against rookie quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the past. Just a lot of confusion, disguises on defense. Dylan Gabriel last week, no deep throws, second worst CPOE in the entire league. And he's dealing with a receiving core that has the worst separation numbers in the entire NFL. So that streak of Cleveland not scoring 20 plus points, I don't know, I think it's double digits now. I really think that might extend. Pittsburgh's defense isn't great. It's been very turnover driven, but I think as personnel comes back, they're going to start to move up into the upper half of the league. Quinshon Judkins has been a pretty bright spot for the Browns. 4.9 yards per carry. Again, I think Pittsburgh's run defense will improve as the year goes on. On the other side of things, it's the Steelers that do have to cover the number. I think that the price is fine as it stands right now. Aaron Rodgers, pretty washed at this point in his career, but what he does well is get the ball out quickly. This is an offense that's very short pass heavy. They have a lot of yards after catch. I'm pretty sure they have the most yards after catch in the league, but the lowest ADOT in the league. So they're reliant on creating yards. And that kind of works against the Browns defense, where you can't let that pass rush tee off on you. But I think as it stands right now, market has settled into a pretty good spot here. And I don't think that there's much I would want to do with this game. I did like Jerry Jeudy under on receiving yards in this. And it's kind of like borderline. He was 44.5 before I came to air. He is their number one receiver, but you're seeing a lot of targets. The targets diminish for Jeudy as the year has gone on. Part of that is just lack of separation. It's kind of all their receivers, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some heavy two tight end stuff from the Browns today. Try to keep things easy for Dylan Gabriel. So I played Jerry Jeudy under 44.5 receiving yards in this game. J-Main in the chat says Warren under 47.5. I was kind of leaning opposite there, if I'm being honest. I was pretty close to playing the over. Didn't, though. So if you end up winning, I'm totally fine. J-Main says passer rating 38 throwing to Jerry Jeudy. It's been pretty rough. Second game on the board. Lots of movement here over the last 24 hours as we've had a change in quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. Current market in Colts and Cardinals, Indy minus 9.5, minus 105, total 46.5 in this game. And this is a really, really tough game to model or price. Kyler Murray not going to play, so it's Jacoby Brissett. The challenge with pricing Jacoby Brissett is that if you go back and look at his most recent numbers with the Patriots, they're pretty rough, EPA-wise, success rate-wise. However, he wasn't exactly in the best position to succeed with this team. Bad O-line, no wide receivers. That makes it really, really tough. I'm pretty high on the Colts, generally speaking. For those who tuned in last Sunday, I was pretty off market with the Colts against the Raiders. I'm not surprised that once this number hit 10 today, we saw a buyback. That seems to be like a good price point. I think it's okay in this range, to be completely honest with you. Cardinals, as much as, I see it in the chat, how can Kyler be worth this many points? I would agree that he probably isn't, but in a vacuum, you look at what else the Cardinals are dealing with. Their defensive line is a disaster right now. Still issues with the secondary. We'll have to watch Max Melton's status today as he was dealing with a hamstring injury. Didn't play last week as well. But it's just not a good football team, not a healthy football team at this point in time. Now, Indy has issues. They're thin at cornerback. They're missing Moore, Hilton, Jones. All three are out. So potentially there's an opportunity there to move the ball through the air on the outside. Is Brissett going to be the guy to do so? Maybe if he had a better running game, potentially. Michael Carter not going to start today. Bam Knight is instead. But the Cardinals' run game has disappeared, and I'm just not there with this team right now. Colts offense still looking great. Daniel Jones thriving in this offense. He's not taking sacks. They're running a lot of play action. Heavy 12 and 13 personnel usage. It's a very balanced approach for this team. So as it stands right now, I don't really like anything. The closest I came to playing props, which I didn't, Paul just put it in the chat, McBride overs. I thought those were a little bit low. I mean, I think there's a mismatch there against the Colts linebackers, and Brissett does like to target his tight ends, but just didn't really get to anything in this game over the course of the week. And at where we settled right now, between like 7.5 and 10, I think is a totally fine price as well. Third game on deck here this morning in the early slate is going to be the Rams and the Ravens. This one originally got bet to the Rams early in the week, And since you've seen a lot of movement towards the Ravens, to the point where FanDuel is now shaded towards the Ravens at 7, total in the game has dropped down below 44 to 43.5 in a lot of spots. So first and foremost, there's 2 games today that have some potential weather situation. I don't want to say like they're catastrophic or anything like that. It's just that you're going to deal with some wind and some steady rain where you're going to bump down the passing offenses in the game. And this is one of the 2 games. I got an update from Baltimore today. I don't foresee this, like I said, being a game where you can't throw the ball. That's not what I'm saying. But deep passing, long kicking, those are the types of things that will get impacted by this type of weather. The Rams, still missing Rob Havenstein at right tackle, which is an issue. Baltimore, hard to price. It's not quite as bad as last week. Obviously, they're still without Lamar. They traded Odafe Owe. Roquan Smith is out. Madubuike's out. But they do get Kyle Hamilton back. They do get Marlon Humphrey back. They do get their left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, back. So it's not quite as dire as it was last week. The rush struggled very badly against Houston. Houston was able to move the ball at will on Baltimore last week. Rams will probably have some decent success here, but it's not as bare bones a defense as it was 1 week ago. Definitely think that Baltimore can be exploited on a lot of intermediate routes. It's happened a lot this year. That's kind of a disaster for Nacua and Adams in terms of covering those guys. Other side, same type of thing. Cooper Rush was bad last week. I spoke my piece on Cooper Rush as a Cowboys fan. I think when he was first called into action a few years back, very serviceable. As more and more time has gone by, it's just not a very good quarterback. And he was dealing with a pretty ferocious Houston front last week. The Rams can get some pretty decent pressure, top 10 pressure rate as well. So that'll be a matchup to watch on top of it. A couple things that I like in this game from a prop perspective. I did play Cooper Rush over in pass yards, 186.5 this morning at FanDuel. Almost 180 yards against Houston last week, trailing game state throughout. With the spread and then being a touchdown underdog, very likely a trailing game state here. I just don't think that the Rams defense has the same capability as the Texans defense to completely shut down this Ravens offense. I also played some DeAndre Hopkins under receiving yards, which, I mean, he got 11 offensive snaps last week. He continues to get fewer and fewer snaps. He's at 14.5 receiving yards at FanDuel. And listen, there's usually a shot play to him, which you're going to have to sweat every week, but the guy's barely on the field. So those are a couple that I liked in this game. Aside from that, I didn't do much with it. Canes Nation asks, are you still buying on the Ravens, or is it too many losses to buy into them? No, I think they're still going to be very live to win the division. I'm almost certain, I'll just pull up their schedule, that they have a bye week next week and that Lamar will be back after that. Could be wrong about that. Yeah, their next game's the 26th. So bye week next week. If this ends up being another loss, I mean, we'll see where we're at after this week. But I still think that there's going to be an opportunity to buy the Ravens at some point. Okay, I'll get into the rest of the early games in just a second here. But FanDuel is turning up the heat every Sunday with Power Hour. It's the ultimate live betting window where the action is wild and the rewards are even better. It's pretty simple. Here's how it works. Every Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, FanDuel gives you a profit boost to use on live bets during what is the most intense stretch of the NFL slate. This is when the games flip, underdogs rally, parlays hit, all sorts of crazy stuff happens. It's the Power Hour on FanDuel. If you're watching it all go down, you've got some extra firepower to use on your next bet. So open up the FanDuel app between 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, claim your profit boost, make your move while the action unfolds. It's called the Power Hour for a reason. Happens every Sunday only on FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com/forwardprogress to get started. Please play responsibly. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus and present in DC, Wyoming, or Kentucky. Opt-ins required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. And this is a paid endorsement. Okay, keep it going here in the early slate. We got the Seahawks and the Jags. So for those who watch stuff I do over the course of the week, Thursday best bets, I went single hammer on the Seahawks on the money line at -104. Currently, they're -112. So actually going to end up getting a decent price on that. But I'm actually surprised. That bet on the Seahawks was, as I mentioned on the Thursday show, taking a stab that the injury report was going to be better. It wasn't. In fact, it was worse. And sometimes you swing and you miss. But the Seattle secondary is pretty gutted. Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Julian Love, all out of the game. Jacksonville has a couple injuries. Brenton Strange went on IR. Their center, Hainsey, is down as well for this week. But I'm pretty much off of this at this point. I actually did try to reduce my position by taking some ARBs wherever I could. So I'm still a little bit exposed to Seattle. But at this point, I guess current market numbers, if I hadn't done anything with the game, I would lean slightly Jacksonville. Although it's just not something that I'm really interested in at this point. I do think that these teams will head in different directions as the year goes on. I'm much more optimistic about Seattle going forwards than Jacksonville. Jacksonville's very reliant on turnovers on defense. I saw like PFF grade their coverage on their account today as like first in the league, which is, I mean, that's not going to continue going forwards. I love the Seattle offense. I think Sam Darnold's really thriving in what Clint Kubiak's running. Heavy play action, deep throws that are building up his EPA, like they're taking shots. Third in EPA per dropback. They haven't really been able to get the run going, but this is like one of the rare times where I'm okay with the commitment to the run for Seattle, because if you are watching the game, the games, they are freezing linebackers on this play action. It seems to really be working where teams are trying to shut down the run and forcing Darnold to beat them. Running, play action over the top seems to be working really well. The Jags defense has had really, really good linebacker play this year, so that'll be interesting to watch. But ultimately, Seattle's offense has been very perky so far this year. Jacksonville, I don't really have a lot of faith in their offense, particularly because I'm not a big Trevor Lawrence guy. He was efficient last week, but he's kind of turnover lucky as well. Makes a few bad throws every game that just haven't gone against him. They're facing a weak secondary. They have pass catchers that should be able to get open. They should be able to spread Seattle thin vertically, but the run game has kind of been efficient for them this year, and Seattle's run defense has been pretty strong. So I'll be interested to see if they have to become a pass-first team, what that looks like. But ultimately, I'm okay with where we're at right now. Like FanDuel's -112, Seattle -104. If anything, I have a slight lean to the over in the game. But once it pumped up through 47, you kind of go through that key number, and I mean, I'm not really going to be chasing a 47.5 in this one. I did play, I mean, this is probably the squarest play of the entire day, but I did play JSN over on receptions here at 6.5, -102 at FanDuel. And part of it is game script. When you look at Seattle's games this year that have been close throughout, when I say throughout, I'm not talking like Seattle, Arizona, Thursday Night Football, where it was 23-3, and Arizona mounts a comeback late in the game. Games that have been in the balance for the majority of the game. You look at JSN's targets, 9 against Tampa last week, 10 against Pittsburgh in that game, 13 week 1 against San Fran. They simply just throw to the guy, and Jacksonville doesn't have anyone in the secondary that can take him out of the game. So I played some JSN over in this one. Shifting gears to an NFC matchup. Cowboys, my favorite team, at the Carolina Panthers. One of my best friends working in the front office of that team. So interesting day. We chatted a little bit this morning. This is the second game today that has some possible inclement weather. The total got bet down a little bit yesterday as the forecast started to switch a little bit. And very, very similar to what we're looking at in the Baltimore game, where you likely see some rain, some wind gusts 25, 30 miles an hour, probably affects the deep passing game, less so underneath. Long kicking, maybe that takes away a Dallas edge a little bit, considering they have arguably the best kicker in the entire league. And you got the Rico Dowdle revenge game, as Connor Hartle points out in the chat. So let me see if I see any 3.5s out there anymore. I think they're all gone at this point. So all those Carolina 3.5s got taken out, and the market has moved towards the under. And as we stand right here, right now, for this particular game at FanDuel, Dallas is laying 3 minus 105. Injury situation's definitely better for the Cowboys this week. They're still without CeeDee Lamb. They're still without Kevontae Turpin. The O-line is healthier, though. Tyler Guyton's back. Tyler Smith, who was active last week, is actually likely going to see the field today. So better situation on the O-line. Carolina still dealing with injuries of their own. Chuba Hubbard, 3 interior O-line on IR. They lose their right tackle this week as well. Secondary's beat up a little bit. Caleb Evans is out. Chow Smith-Wade, Mike Jackson, both questionable, but they've practiced 3 times this week. So I think both of those guys will play. Dallas's run game looks really good. They're using a lot of gap schemes. They now have Dak running a lot of play action. It's been working for them. And as you know, I've noticed a lot of people pointing out the EPA and success rate numbers for the Panthers defense so far this year. And definitely it's been pleasantly surprising. But if you just look at the personnel, I'm concerned about them moving forwards. But in a similar vein for this particular game, we're watching the Jets offense in front of us right now against the Broncos. Granted, this is the Broncos defense. But if you look at the Cowboys' defensive performance last week against the Jets, it looks a lot more impressive, less impressive now that we see the Jets offense again in a second consecutive week look like a dumpster fire. And I still think Carolina can attack Dallas's run defense. Their run D's been bottom 5 in terms of EPA this year. Part of that is getting Rico Dowdle involved in the game. But even in the past defense game, I mean, Dallas probably will get better as the year goes on. Now that Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, even Kalen Carson will be healthier, they're still not going to have a good pass defense. So yeah, maybe it's going to be better than being dead last in explosive passes allowed, but I would expect some defensive regression from the Cowboys. I could not bet the Cowboys at the numbers that were available this week, and not surprised with the Panthers' money. I do think Carolina's pretty live in this game. Whether or not you would want to chase it at this point in terms of the number, I'd say probably not. Now that we've got, you could have had expensive 3.5s. Now we have expensive 3s. I don't think in the long run it's a great idea to bet into that type of number at this point. Just really recapping from Canes Nation here. Sorry, Rob, going back to Seattle Jags. With injuries, the game total over look good. So, like I said, for that game, once you get above 47, like to 47.5, 47 is that key number in that threshold there. Even if you make the game like 48 is your total, you're probably not betting 47.5 there. So, completely up to you. I'm just giving you my numbers and my feel on each game. They're up there for you on the screen if you want to use them. But at this point, if I had not had anything on that total, I would not go and bet that total. There'd be very, very few things that I would actually be betting on game day here. Keep it moving. Chargers and Dolphins is our next game in the early window. This has been all Dolphins money this week. which I fully agree with. Talk about that in just 1 second here. Market now, Chargers -3.5, -114 at FanDuel. Now, it was all early under, and we had some game day money on the over in this game. That I do not agree with. Now, what prompted that game day money? Was there any injuries, anything like that happened? The answer is no. If anything, the news yesterday of Quentin Johnston potentially missing today's game would have further benefited the under. But what happened was limits went up at a few different spots, and immediately those games got popped. So someone who bets a lot of money on the NFL really was waiting to fire on this over. And I disagree with that. I think anything over 44 is value towards the under, particularly with how bad the Chargers O-line is going to look in today's game. It's not just Joe Alt out. It's Trey Pipkins, who's their swing tackle, who's also out, not very good in the first place. They're literally signing practice squad players to play O-line this week. I don't know if you remember the name Bobby Hart, but he's likely starting at right tackle today. They're down their top 2 running backs, potentially a top 2 receiver. I understand that Miami's pass rush is weak, and you do have to account for the quality of the competition. Can they take advantage of this? They're 25th in pressure rate. They blitz a lot. But to me, this could potentially be the worst O-line in the NFL for today's game. And on top of that, we've seen the Chargers, like Justin Herbert is very good. He is often able to overcome some of these deficiencies and move the ball. But you're looking at the Chargers red zone this year as well, 39% TD rate. It's bottom 3 in the league. They just are not punching it in even when they get down the field. And with that, makes it extremely challenging to back this team to win by margin, in my opinion. Miami's offense also struggling post Tyreek. They don't have a downfield threat. They're very reliant on Jalen Waddle and now Darren Waller as well. The Chargers defense can be gashed in the running game, so Miami's going to have to try to find some sort of balance there. Ultimately, though, when all is said and done, it's really hard for me to get behind these teams that have excessive offensive line injuries. And sometimes I'm completely wrong about that, like the Jets last week. But I think for the most part, a lot of these situations maybe are often undervalued as well. So oddly, this is a game where Miami is going to have the better O-line, and you don't even hear that. I think the Chargers were going to go bench Bradley Bozeman in favor of Andre James this week at center, and then they ended up putting Bozeman back in practice later in the week. Seems like a pretty big mess. I played Justin Herbert under on passing yards, 247.5, around, I don't know, an hour before came to air this morning. That was at FanDuel. And this is just predicated on the fact that I think the Chargers with the O-line issues do have to try to be a little bit more run heavy. And we've seen Herbert's numbers just completely fall off since Joe Alt has gotten injured as well. So we're there. Normally I go rotation number order here, but I'm just going to go out of order and do the Patriots and Saints because this was originally going to be a late game, and it's been moved to the early window for today. So New England, New Orleans up next. As it stands right now, most books either have moved off of 3.5 to 3 this morning or are in the process of doing so. Very expensive 3.5 on New Orleans right now. Total in the game is at 45.5. Numbers wise, actually, I should point this out because actually I should brought it up in the chat. I saw this morning. Milton Williams arrived at the stadium with an illness. He's questionable to go. We're going to find out very shortly if he's going to play or not, as we will with Christian Gonzalez, who likely plays, but it's not 100% yet. Definitely numbers leaning towards New Orleans here. And I think New England is starting to get, I think it's a combo, honestly, of both of these teams where the Patriots are starting to get a little bit overrated in market and the Saints might be just a tad underrated. I am a big Drake May guy. He's thriving in this offense. Top 10 EPA versus man. His pocket feels really good. He uses his legs. Not going to get probably a ton of resistance from the Saints defense. I mean, they did force 4 turnovers last week against the Giants. So that was there. They do get Chase Young back today, playing his first game of the year. And Chase Young, I mean, listen, he's not what he was expected to be coming into the league, but any personnel on the defensive line is going to help them. So I'm not as optimistic about the Saints D necessarily, but I can see the Saints offense moving the ball. Like, their intermediate game is very strong this year. One of the better teams in the league in the intermediate passing game. New England has not defended that well. Granted, a few games without Christian Gonzalez, but overall, Spencer Rattler's been pretty steady. I mean, he keeps the offense on schedule. He's not doing anything spectacular, but he's not giving games away. Been a pleasant surprise, I would say. Did not expect anything like this out of him going into the year. And New England's defense has been pretty poor at generating pressure for the most part. So I think the Saints are very live in this one as well, where you get definitely the Patriots are the better team, but they travel on the road. I feel like they're being a little bit overpriced off of that game against Buffalo. One thing to consider as well, Drake May has shredded man defenses this year. Against zone, he's only 23rd in EPA. New Orleans is a pretty heavy zone team, and that tends to work against scrambling quarterbacks. For those that don't know, when you're playing man-to-man, you're chasing receivers downfield. If teams don't spy the quarterback, legs become a big thing. So zone is usually better at keeping the quarterbacks in check. So we have news. Christian Gonzalez is active. And thank you very much, both Brandon and Domani Jones in the chat. From a prop perspective, this was one of the bigger ones I played today, which was Juwan Johnson for the Saints under 38.5 receiving yards. His snap count is decreasing week over week. And part of that is Foster Moreau is back, and they've been using him. They did use him significantly last week. Taysom Hill as well creates more gadget plays, less likelihood of Juwan Johnson doing some stuff. So Juwan Johnson had really good numbers to start the year, but I think that he's pretty overpriced as it stands right now. So I played him towards the under. Would only play the Saints in this game at the current market, and potentially the over as well. Okay, that's it for the early window. We'll move on to the late ones in just a second. Quick reminder, after Sunday Night Football goes final tonight, even if the Blue Jays are still playing, that's going to be a tough one to get through. But check out myself and Clive Bixby. We'll break down all the games that were just played. We give you the early reads and thoughts for Week 7. We have done a pretty good job in terms of getting you guys good prices on Sunday nights. This season, last season, that's all we can do. If you're betting early in the week and you want to get good prices, just do it. That's right after Sunday Night Football tonight, right here on Forward Progress. And might as well just set notifications here on the channel. You'll get notified as soon as we go live. The chat is pretty active in that show, giving their thoughts for next week as well. Appreciate Brian D in the chat who says the Look Ahead show is great. It's the feedback we get. I'm just relaying it. As much as it might seem like I'm a narcissist, I really am not. But when people do give good feedback on that, I do like to relay it, and that is one of my favorite shows to do. So check that out tonight. Late window, San Fran, Tampa Bay. Again, this is another game similar to Seattle and Jacksonville, right? So one of the struggles I think with doing content in the space is you might say something early in the week, but your opinion changes later in the week. Now, my opinion is not changing because like the public is betting one side or this and that. Like, I think people, they get, like, my opinion is changing because of personnel. And I really we talked about this on Sunday night. I talked about it a little bit on Thursday. I really wanted to find reasons to bet San Fran in this game at +3. But as the week goes on, like, I just don't know how you possibly do that. So most of the threes are gone. There's maybe some expensive threes still out there, -120 or so. FanDuel's moved off to 3.5. The total's been bet down as well. San Fran is pretty decimated, right? Like, I believe that Tampa might be a little bit overrated right now. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. He's done a great job with that offense. Think that they've kind of pulled out some games where they've been lucky to pull that out. But now you got Brock Purdy out again. Mac Jones dealing with injuries, which he's going to play through. But whenever you have a starting quarterback who's limited in practice all week, that's just like a huge cause for concern. And it's not even that. It's Kittle. It's the wide receivers. The D-line is a complete disaster. Since Bosa got injured, their pressure rate has just dropped completely. But it's not just Bosa. There's multiple players on the D-line that are going to be out. I'm really struggling with San Fran at this point. Now, Tampa's also shorthanded. There's no Mike Evans. There's no Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving. They have cornerback situations gotten better. Jamel Dean is back. But I don't know. It's just kind of a spot right now where kind of would want to fade both teams. I run the numbers on the game. I have extremely little confidence in pricing this game due to the amount of injuries. And I kind of just end up with where the market ended up. And I'm totally fine with that. But I'll be interested to see, like, Kyle Shanahan is very great offensive game planner. We now have 1 week of tape with that offense with Mac Jones, which was everything underneath. For some godforsaken reason, the Rams decided they were going to play too high for the entire game and give San Fran everything underneath. I'm not sure that Todd Bowles is going to do that. He's a pretty strong defensive mind. So I don't know that San Fran can replicate what they were able to do last week. Ultimately, just not a whole lot here. Nothing from a prop perspective either. Just a game that I'm comfortable avoiding. Somehow the Jets are going to win this game. I don't even know what the yardage is. The first half was one of the most lopsided halves of the entire season. 11-10 Jets now in the third quarter. I see some people asking for survivor thoughts. I'll go over those at the end of the show as well. Okay, Tennessee, Las Vegas. This is an ugly afternoon slate today. Okay, current market: Tennessee, Las Vegas. All Tennessee money this week. Open 6, got bet down to 4.5. Now we see the market pretty much entirely at 3.5. FanDuel's even shaded further towards Tennessee, like this could possibly go to 3. Total in the game 41.5. I find it very hard to price both of these teams. It's kind of a theme now. We've had a lot of injuries so far this year, more than I can remember early on in the season. Tennessee is going to be missing some key players on defense. Arden Key is out. They're still down to Vondre Sweat. That's 2 big players on the D-line. But they do get J.C. Latham back at right tackle. So this is going to be the first time that they're going to have a healthy O-line all year. Whereas Las Vegas is down arguably the 2 most critical players on offense in Brock Bowers and Colton Miller. And it's really hard to lay these prices, Vegas to win by margin, with as bad as that offense has been so far this year. The O-line is a disaster. The regression from Geno Smith has been severe. Most turnover-worthy plays in the entire NFL. Now, Tennessee's pass rush is very weak. They only have 70 pressures this year. Can they exploit the Las Vegas O-line? I don't know. That's really, really tough. Really tough matchup to gauge. On the other side, the one thing I'll say about Tennessee, obviously, we can all agree that they completely fluked off last week's win. That's without a doubt. But as the O-line has been coming back, Cam Ward's sack percentage has been dropping weekly. That O-line is stabilizing. Las Vegas has one person who can get pressure in Max Crosby. Teams are trying to take him out of the game as much as possible, chipping him with the tight end, running back, basically double teaming him and letting anyone else beat them. And it's 2 pretty brutal football teams, all said and done. My number leans slightly towards Las Vegas. I don't really know what to make of either of these teams, and I didn't do much with this week at all. From a prop look, Michael Mayer, I played him over 3.5 receptions. He's back from a concussion as well. So even though Bowers is out, remember, Mayer was drafted pretty highly either a year or two before. I think just 1 year before. Obviously, have dealt with the concussion issues for him, but I do like having him in that offense to get some easy looks today. So I played him over 3.5 receptions at minus 102 in that game. Other late game, the last, is the Bengals and the Packers. Market has pretty much settled at 14 here. FanDuel still at 14.5. Where to start here? I've talked about this game quite a bit this week. When you have spreads this high, it's really hard to make a case for the team that's really bad. And Cincinnati brings in Joe Flacco, which in my opinion is probably a better quarterback than Jake Browning. I don't know. You can argue one way or another, probably. But in this particular offense, behind this offensive line, I think it's going to be an unmitigated disaster. I mean, you have the second highest pressure rate allowed by any O-line this season. Granted, Green Bay is missing Devontae Wyatt. That might hurt them a bit on the D-line. But overall, Green Bay can win across all gaps defensively. Like, Cincy can't generate any explosive plays on offense. You have Flacco coming in, learning the plays on a very short week, basically 3 days of prep, against a defense that's already seen him this year, like a month ago, and completely shut him down behind a better O-line. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of hope for the Bengals offense today. These bye spots are often overrated in the NFL, and we're going to see who starts for Green Bay. We won't get the inactives till about 90 minutes before the game today. It looks like they potentially are going to be without a few players again. Maybe Zach Tom misses. The bye week didn't do wonders in terms of getting this team healthy necessarily, but the Bengals defense is so soft underneath. They have pretty much no hope of defending Tucker Kraft at this point. They struggle against any team that brings a lot of motion or play action looks. I mean, they struggle against any type of offense, really. They have only one real pressure source in Trey Hendrickson, and I think the Packers offense is just way too balanced to be able to get stopped by this Cincinnati defense. So this is one game that doesn't ever really fit my MO of, I mean, like, I could not play Cincinnati in this game. I think this game has to be above 2 touchdowns. But traditionally, this is a spot where I think maybe the home team gets a little bit overrated because that bye week advantage is just not what it once was. I like Matt. Let me just double check this price really quickly to make sure it's still there, because this was one that was off market that I played earlier, and I don't want to give it out in case it's moved. No, it hasn't. So FanDuel still has Matthew Golden receptions at 3.5. Over is plus 146. So that's still out there. I think that's a really solid bet at that price. I mean, Golden has turned into their number one. He will probably get the most targets of anyone moving forwards. And I know he's like a downfield threat as well, so people are scared to play his like over on receptions. But he is running a lot of short and intermediate routes as well. So that's one that I like. Matthew Golden, FanDuel only, over 3.5 plus 146. I see A.D. Mitchell is inactive. That's not going to affect the Colts whatsoever. Just doesn't see the field anymore for that to matter. XS says Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch will be active tonight. That will be interesting because I'm pretty sure Kirby Joseph didn't practice all week. So he's 3 times DNP with a knee injury. I'd be very cautious about that moving forwards. Brian Branch went limited DNP. So it got worse for him this week with the ankle injury. Keep an eye on that. That's our next game. So let's do that. Sunday Night Football is the Lions and the Chiefs. I bet a lot on this game. I bet a lot of Chiefs. I bet a lot on the over in this game. And this is pretty much all because of the secondary for the Detroit Lions and Taylor Decker being out. But this is, if you remember back to the end of last year, the Lions ran into some like pretty bad injury luck where, they were just pretty decimated, even in the playoff game against the Commanders, and eventually it caught up to them. And this is bad. This might even be worse than last year. Like, you're talking about what would have been your best four corners to start the season. Exesh is reporting that the safeties are going to play, but we won't get inactives until later in the day. Potentially top two safeties injured. Depth is really being tested here. Ali McNeil not ready to come back on the D-line. Taylor Decker, their left tackle, is also out. Their backup left tackle is out. I think Dan Skipper is going to play left tackle today, so you probably see 17 holding penalties on the Detroit O-line. This is KC at full health against Detroit as beat up as they can. And I understand that betting Detroit over the years has been very good. They're a team that I like to bet on. They're well coached. They overcome a lot of deficiencies pretty regularly. But to me, this is just the way the situation is played out. I can't get anywhere close to these market numbers. So if you saw my numbers on screen, I definitely am heavily shaded towards KC and the over. If you haven't played anything yet, KC team total over, in my opinion, is pretty strong. Detroit's going to be forced to not play as much cover one. They tend to play a lot of cover three when they have injuries in the secondary, which Patrick Mahomes has been very good against. I think KC is going to move the ball at will in this game. I do. Thomas asks, is Rice back this week? No, he's not. He's back next week. He's suspended for 6 games. So that's that. On the other side, Chiefs are doing well to get to the quarterback. Pretty high pressure rate. If you know Jared Goff, you know that he probably has some drastic splits when pressured versus not pressured. I mean, every quarterback is better when not pressured. But Goff's has always been a little bit more drastic. He's pretty elite when he's clean. But I think protection is going to be shaky here without Decker. And even on the inside, there's some mismatches there on the KCD line, in my opinion. So, a lot of overwhelming support from me for Kansas City and the over in this game. I also played Patrick Mahomes over on pass yards. It was 262.5 this morning. Played that towards the over. I think that just logically fits in with everything that I believe is going to happen in this game. Someone mentioned earlier, I talk on the top of every show about sides and totals, market being tight. Why do I play props on game day? So that is just a personal choice. I can get out ahead of those props and probably get better numbers if I play them on Saturday, Friday sometimes. But I try to keep my accounts alive as much as possible as well. So I still win playing props on game day, and I find that doing that allows me to bet into an account longer. For whoever asked earlier, I just happened to see that comment. Okay, 2 games for Monday Night Football. Reminder, so tomorrow is actually Canadian Thanksgiving. I'll be celebrating having lunch with at my mother's tomorrow. But I am still going to do the watch-alongs tomorrow night, so no worries. That's going to happen. Me and Jason in studio. We're going live 15 minutes before the early game. So Buffalo Atlanta's up first. We're going to start at 7 o'clock. I'll do props for that game. We'll start watching Buffalo Atlanta. Then I'll give out props for Washington and Chicago afterwards as well. So tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Set your notifications for that as well, for the double watch along that we have. Really quick thoughts on both games. So let's start with Buffalo and Atlanta. I used Atlanta as my triple hammer on the Thursday show. I thought they were the best number that was available in market at the time of recording. And Atlanta did catch some money across the market over the last day. FanDuel now down to 3.5, slightly shaded towards Buffalo. We still have a 4.5 out there, but for the most part, those are mostly gone. I may regret saying this, but I think the Bills are pretty overrated right now. And it's not just a reaction to last week's loss. Obviously, they're very capable at any point of scoring at will and making me look like an idiot. That's what happens sometimes when you say things like, the team with the best quarterback in the league is overrated. But they are leaving a lot to be desired on both sides of the ball. And if we just look at the recent results in a vacuum, I mean, there's cause for concern. They lose to the Patriots at home, which fine, but like the Patriots aren't world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. They play a home game against the Saints. They're up 24-19 in the fourth quarter. Spencer Rattler misses a wide open Brandon Cooks in the end zone for a touchdown, would have gave the Saints the lead. They played the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. They allowed the Dolphins to completely hang around in that game. It's just not a great football team right now. Defensively, they give up way too much on the ground, and I think this is a nightmare matchup for them against Atlanta, who likes to run a lot of outside zone runs. They could really put it on, this Buffalo defense, if they can get the running game going. That just makes everything work so much better for them. No one on the Bills defense is capable of covering Drake London. I think there's a lot of advantages on that side of the ball. Will Buffalo get back to, great offense? At some point, maybe. I don't like the amount that they're running the ball, honestly. I think they're just a little bit too run-heavy as an offense. A.J. Terrell back for Atlanta is going to boost that secondary if it ends up being a game that turns into a little bit, pass-heavy. But I just couldn't really get to this number, and I think it's mostly because I think Buffalo is just overvalued in market. In the other game, we got Chicago-Washington. We're all over the place with numbers on this game. If you wanted to bet the Commanders, FanDuel will be your best spot at, looks like minus 4.5, minus 102 right now, which is the equivalent of 3.5, minus 118 in the alternate market there as well. I like Chicago in this game. It's a small play. Jaden Daniels looked good off the return last week. Cliff Kingsbury has that offense working pretty well. The biggest mismatch on paper, if you're just looking at stats for this week, would be the Commanders' running game against the Bears' run defense. The Bears' run defense has been very poor. They're last in EPA per rush. That said, I think the bye came at a very good time for them. They're going to get TJ Edwards back at middle linebacker. Kyler Gordon at corner is going to play his first game of the year. They're going to get their right tackle, Darnell Wright, back tomorrow night as well. And Washington's wide receiving core is in pretty rough shape to the point where it's not even certain that Debo will play tomorrow night. They're for sure without Terry McLaurin again, Noah Brown again, but Debo seems like he's at risk. I mean, that receiving core is going to be Luke McCaffrey, Chris Moore, Jalen Lane. That's going to be rough. And then naturally, what's going to happen is Chicago is going to cheat to stop the run and force Washington's receivers to win on the outside. And I think Chicago's pretty live in this game. Problem is their inconsistency. They're getting better under Ben Johnson. Caleb is especially on offense. They should be able to scheme up a bunch of stuff against this Washington defense. If they can get Bobby Wagner in space, he's cooked at this point. So pretty strong lean to Chicago in this game. I am on both underdogs tomorrow for those who are going to tune in and watch the show. Okay. So that's it for most of the games, or all the games. Let me just do a quick rundown really quickly. I'm going to go out of order here. I sort my odds screen in weird ways, but I'm going to go out of order here. Arizona, Indianapolis, just a quick recap. I don't have much to do here. I think if you like anything in this game, I would consider playing some alts. These are the types of spots where there's high variance, right? I mean, Indy's prepping for Kyler Murray most of the week. They're going to get Jacoby Brissett. Sometimes it just doesn't, it works out poorly. But ultimately, nothing to do there. Rams in Baltimore, man, there's lots of Baltimore money this morning. And the Rams look somewhat appealing now in a few spots that have moved off 7 to 6.5. I just do have to really look into that weather a bit further when I go off air. I would not bet the Rams here if this is going to be like torrential downpour, high wind gusts, and it turns into a running game because that condenses the game. It makes the underdog more valuable, but they are somewhat interesting to me now. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, we're seeing some 6.5s pop. I think maybe that's a little bit too far, but no real issue. I think the market there is fine. Seattle, Jacksonville, I'm very close to the game being a pick'em, so nothing there. I guess directionally I lean towards the over. There are some flat 47s out there. I guess I'd play the over on those. Chargers, Miami. I like the under at current market, but that's opposite some pretty heavy money from today. Don't know about that. I would still lean Dolphins at current price. Dallas, Panthers, Cowboys, Panthers. I don't know why I said Dallas, Panthers. Lean Carolina. Again, another weather game, so just be cognizant of that if you're betting it. New England, New Orleans, played some Saints. I still like that 3.5 minus 115 that's out there on the Saints. Also have a little bit of over in this game as well. Nothing crazy. Tennessee, Las Vegas, didn't do anything with that. San Fran, Tampa Bay, I think that's priced fine as well. Cincy, Green Bay, man, if 13.5s pop, I will click instantaneously. I don't know if that's going to happen. I kind of hate these big spread games, though. Detroit, KC, I'm all over KC and the over in that game. Yeah, there's some like market support towards the under this morning. I like lots of points. Both games on Monday Night Football, I like the underdogs. All right, touchdown scores. I'm not going to go nuts with it this week. I like this look, by the way, Joe Rogan. Schoonmaker, first TD. I think Luke Schoonmaker is a good TD bet pretty consistently now. Let's see what we got here. I'll at least give out a few. Oh, by the way, on Thursday night, people were asking for this, and I'm going to do this going forwards. We have a Discord at the Hammer. If you're interested in joining, the link is discord.gg/hammer, discord.gg/hammer. In the NFL channel, I'm going to post my fair values for anytime touchdown scores for every primetime game for the remainder of the year, as long as I'm around. So I did that on Thursday for Giants and Eagles. That way you can just go player by player. You can compare them to your sportsbook price. If you have an edge, you can bet it because it's really challenging in real time. A lot of this stuff moves. So if you're interested, I'll do that for Chiefs and Lions later tonight. Once we get the inactive list, you can just go over to the NFL channel, and then I'll do that tomorrow night as well for both Monday Night Football games. So that'll just make it easier on a lot of you to get some of these. But really quickly, I'm going to go just double check here. Again, I know this is always riveting for you guys to watch me, pull up an odd screen. Okay, let's go New England and New Orleans. If you guys want to load that up at FanDuel. New England and New Orleans. This is not going to come as a surprise to anyone. I pretty much play this player in the range he's at every single week, but I'm going to take Spencer Rattler at plus 750. My fair on him is like just above plus 500, plus 508 fair value. I think that's a pretty regular click for me. He's way more mobile than people think, especially down in the red zone. They will utilize his legs a lot. So that's one that I like. Insane long shot. I know people just want to go nuts for this. I like to play, let's go Green Bay Cincy as a long shot. This ain't going to happen, but I am going to bet it. You can get as high as to 35-1 out there, 30-1 at FanDuel. I like playing quarterbacks that are known to sneak the ball under center. I'm going to play Joe Flacco in this game. It's ugly. They may not even score a touchdown, but I think that at that price, it warrants a bet. I make them about 23-1. You can find some 35-1s in market as well. Let's go one more here. Let's see what we can go with here that might be worthwhile. All right. Let's go Chargers in Miami. And you need 7-1 or higher to bet this. FanDuel 7-1. I do see some 8-1. But Nick Westbrook-Akine would be the other one that I look at. So when Tyreek Hill got hurt, they didn't change Malik Washington's role at all. They kind of kept him as a short receiver, like A-dot very low. Nick Westbrook-Akine is who they put on the other side that they're going to try to stretch the field with. I don't know that they'll be able to do so, but he is getting red zone snaps, and he's kind of he's not Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying that, but he's kind of filled that role as well. So Nick Westbrook-Akine. And we'll do that. That'll be it for today. It's not a great day in terms of anytime touchdown markets. If I was looking at anyone that was like favored, let's say 2-1 or less, those types of price ranges, I think Matthew Golden is definitely playable. I think Xavier Worthy is probably playable as well. And those would be across the market. Survivor. So I saw the Circa Survivor percentages, which were like 51% Green Bay. That's pretty high. I think a lot of that is there was a big bloodbath last week. So naturally, after a bloodbath, people start going like, I just want to play it safe. I'm not going to overthink it and get too cautious. And, it's hard to argue against that with the other options that are available this week. Indy, I guess, is an option, but I don't like... I feel like that game has a wider range than the spread indicates. Like Arizona could be live in that game. So I'm not a super big fan of doing that. The market is pretty heavily resisted the Rams today. I think Pittsburgh is an option, but like really if you're only desperate. So I know it's very chalky, but in almost every pool I would be looking to go Green Bay today. Okay. That's going to be it for me. I do appreciate everyone in the chat. Take two seconds. I didn't beg for likes over the course of the stream because I was trying to get through as much of this as possible. But if you enjoyed the stream, just smash that like button down below before you head out on your way out the door. Michael Burns asked me if I'm going to Penn State game this year. No, I got invited to Penn State, Oregon, actually, a few weeks back, but I just couldn't make it. There's too much going on, so I won't be doing Penn State this year. Luckily, I guess, because they're in shambles. I don't want to make predictions on the Jays either. I just want them to win. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not really betting playoff baseball all that much. Okay, that's going to be it. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Smash that like button on the way out the door. Big thanks to everyone who hung out with us today. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe, share it, do all that stuff. Shout out to our presenting sponsor at FanDuel. Special thanks to my producer Barbara Alberts behind the scenes, keeping everything running smoothly. Again, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone. I'll be right back here tonight on Forward Progress for the Sunday reset. That's right after Sunday Night Football. Join me. Peace out, everyone. Good luck with your bets today.